What's going on, guys? Well, look who I snuck out this evening. This is my GSXR 600, and I'm bringing you guys along for the ride this evening because it has been way too long since I've had a chance to spend some time with one of my all-time favorite motorcycles. And the reason for that is I've been putting so much time, effort, and energy into that Yamaha R9. So let's get reacquainted. Go ahead, get her fired up. We're going to get her on the road. I'm going to talk a bit more objectively about this bike now that I've been burning up so much of my life with that Yamaha. Does the Suzuki still have what it takes? Does it still get the blood flowing? Oh yeah, she still definitely gets the heart pumping, boys. So let's get this girl underway. We're going to talk about her. You know, it's kind of hard for me to speak objectively about this bike. I'll be real honest. I'm going to do my ever-level best, but I got to say, when it comes to the GSXR 600, I don't know that I can be unbiased. You got to remember, this is the bike that got so many of us into motorcycling from back in the day, right? And it's because of this engine's character, this just plucky, seemingly constantly pissed off nature that this little 600 has. And that is pretty well indicative of the class. It's weird, you know, spending time with the R9, it's not the same. It really isn't. And one of the takeaways that I have with this bike is whenever I ride it, it's not just the sense of nostalgia. Do we have a clear pattern? We do have a clear pattern. But it's the sense of fun that this bike has and bikes like it that other bikes just don't have. Let's put some of that on display. And I mean, already, you just get the sense that this bike is so purpose-built. You know, there's absolutely nothing about these old school 600s that is a compromise. We've got a full pattern. At all. There's nothing about this bike that you would say is street-oriented, right? But it still works so great on the street. So why is it that bikes like the Yamaha R9, the KTM RCR 990, the V2 Panigale, you know, the usual suspects, how is it that those bikes are becoming popular? Why wouldn't a bike like this, the benchmark standard for middleweight supersports, right? GSXR 750 excluded. But you get the idea. How is it? Why is it that folks fell out of favor with these bikes? Well, it works out like this. Just as we're cruising down the road right now, this bike feels fine. It feels like it's got a decent amount of power on reserve. It's a small engine. It's not very buzzy. So it's not really the engine, although you'll hear that brought up a lot. You'll hear people say, oh, you've got to rev its hits off. Yeah, to get peak power out of it. But if you don't have torque, like engine torque, you've got RPM though. And if you've got RPM, you can make the gearing to where you still have the same mechanical twist on the rear axle. So that's kind of taken that whole argument out of the equation, right? I mean, I can tell you, just buzzing along here, oh yeah, this bike's got plenty of grunt. It just does it in a different way. Basically, it's getting to the same place just by different means. But it's not that. See, it works out like this. This motorcycle, it's kind of small. And it's not just small subjectively. Yeah, motorcycles like the GSXR 600, the Yamaha R6, CBR 600, and the older 636, not the latest one, but the older bikes, they were all small and they were all very compact. so that they could do stuff like that. You can, with one of those bikes, any of these 600 Supersports, there's plenty of power on tap, but what they have is just a denseness to them. But for a lot of riders, they're just not very comfortable, which I guess I have to be forced to understand that. You see, I've never been comfortable on more standard motorcycles. I've always been much more comfortable with a sport bike. But it's my understanding that taller guys, and I'm just shy of 6 feet tall, so I wouldn't say I'm tall, but I'm not 5'7" or 5'6". I'm guessing most guys above, say, 6 feet, 6'1", on one of these smaller middleweights are going to feel a little bit balled up. And if you're a taller person, chances are you're a heavier person. And look, all the mechanical wizardry that you can employ to make one of these 600s kind of grunty, well, there's no replacement for displacement. And if you're a bigger fella, a bike like a KTM, RCR 990, or the R9 is going to be a more attractive bike to you. It's bigger, it's got more grunt, and unless you're basically living on the right hand side of the tack, it's probably going to be a little bit better bike for you. And that may be, but you know where these bikes are so good and there's no replacement for this? Right here, boys. Coming in nice and toasty into our favorite little S-turn. Not too hot though. God, this bike is so good. I really can't put it into, like, there's not a like to this. There is nothing like this. There is only this type of feel. Other bikes are trying to be like this. Yeah, that's kind of the point, right? So that's what gets you into the R9. The R9 and the rest of these heavy, super middleweight, whatever you want to call them, the thing about those bikes, God, I gotta say, God, they just don't have that rush. You know what I mean? They don't have that snarl to them. It's not to say that they're not good, but let's be honest with ourselves. When you're out and about and you're wanting to play, one of these old school 4-cylinder bikes are going to be a lot more exciting to ride. The thing is, exciting isn't always what guys are looking for. You get bigger guy, doesn't really want to spend a lot of time on the side of the tire, basically just wants a sport bike. Something like a GSXR 600 or a CBR 600 might not fit them, like physically. They just may not feel comfortable with it. And so that's why nowadays we've got bikes like the Yamaha R9, like the V2 Panigale. They're just bigger. And in a way, it's also why we've got the latest 636. Now, let's not forget, that bike's 432 pounds. It's got a wheelbase that rivals that of many leader bikes. So, as we look to what looks like the future of this class of bike, we can, I don't know, lament the fact that the R9 is a triple. And if that doesn't freak you out, maybe the fact that the KTM is a parallel twin. I don't know what world we live in where that engine configuration would be considered sporty, but here we are. The V2 Panigale is a V2, but again, it's got things going for it like, I don't know, regular spring actuated valves? Or spring controlled valves? What? On a Ducati? I never thought I'd see the day where that would be considered to be, well, it's a marketing thing. They're just talking about that being like a normal bike. Hey, it's a Ducati, but it's normal. Anyway, take those bikes into consideration and then throw in the 636 as being a bigger bike. And that is kind of the direction that all of these bikes are going. They're physically larger. a little bit unconventional with their engine architecture, but that's the kind of bike that guys want. They want something with more size, and they want something with a bit more diversity too. You know, it's kind of cool to have a bike with a parallel twin that can get out there and mix it up in the twisties. And it's got its own flavor, right? Triples have been around for forever, and guys love them, and they love the unique exhaust note and kind of that split personality that they have, torque and horsepower all in one. If you're a Ducatista, you can still get you a Ducati. It's just not going to be the normal fire-breathing Desmotronic having crazy layout type of a contraption that those things are. You're just going to get a normal bike with normal service intervals. How quaint. So anyway, because of all of that, and because that seems to be the way that the wind is blowing, bikes like the CBR 600, the GSXR 600, they just don't really fall into flavor the way that they used to, and the way that they did for so many of us back in the day. So in a way, what I'm riding right now is a nostalgia class bike. And I don't know that Suzuki is ever going to update this bike or the GSXR 750. They're both basically the same motorcycle in practice, with just, you know, the 750 having a little bit more displacement, bit more power. But a lot of guys complain they don't have the technology. A lot of guys buy them because they don't have the technology. And so there's a lot to be said in a positive way about where the GSXR 600 and where the rest of the Supersport class is in its life cycle. I think, frankly, this is where the 600 is going to remain. If there ever is an update, I don't know that it would be what the traditional Supersport bike owner, rider, it's not going to give that same experience. It's not going to be that small, dense, incredibly strong, incredibly quick, just menace that these bikes can be. It's not going to be that way. And I think that if you lose that, then you lose the essence of what makes this class and what has made this class so good for the last couple of decades. I can't tell you which one I prefer. I can tell you which one pulls at my heartstrings, though. I mean, is it any wonder? But it's not to say the latest crop isn't good. It's going to be somebody's vintage bike in 20 years. But I got to say, where it all got started, the OG, the classic, this, I just don't know if I could ever part ways with this bike. Too many memories, too much history with this class of bike. And every time I ride it, it puts a humongous, ridiculous grin on my face. So I'm wrapping it up. I got to get back. But if you've made it this far into the video, consider smashing that subscribe button. It helps me out a ton. And I hope to catch you on the next one, y'all. Take it easy.